My question for you guys, and I do want cook away, do what you want, but I would love the question answered. Can Arteta still lead Arsenal? Start with you, Lawless.
Can he still lead Arsenal, do you say?
Yeah, be their manager, lead them, whatever phrase you want to use.
Yeah, I mean, he can. He can. Whether he should is another question entirely. And, they'll look at it and they'll go, okay, yeah, we got to a semi-final. We're finishing second in the league. That's not decided. That's not set in stone. It could be third. I mean, they are miles off. They've gone completely backwards in the league. So I just think for them, he's had, 6 years? With this team, it's time for a change. And I keep hearing the excuse, but a striker. If he just had a striker. He's had opportunity after opportunity after opportunity to sign a striker, the striker they need. He did not need to spend 75 million euros on Kai Havertz. He did not need to spend 52 million euros on Gabriel Jesus. Yeah, he did not need to spend 35 million euros on bloody Vieira, 32 million euros on Mikel Merino. So this notion of, but he's the board haven't given him what he wants. They've given him so much money. His fingerprints are all over this team. This is built in his image. So the idea that they're just missing that one piece, why didn't he sign that one piece when he was given the funds? Why did he opt to sign like the likes of Kai Havertz as a midfield and spend all that money and put that there? Why do you not prioritize that? He had Aubameyang, who carried that team to an FA Cup. He carried that team.
You're going back to Aubameyang.
No, what I'm saying is because they haven't replaced him since he got rid of Aubameyang because he was so toxic, right, and forced him out the club. He's never signed that bagsman striker.
I get that.
He's never replaced that sort of.
So how can you say they're back?
He wanted workhorses all around the pitch, but don't have the output. Now all of a sudden,
to Staffy's question, then, yes, he's made some bad decisions. How have they backed him though? If they haven't created the right environment and structure, for instance. Chelsea fans, correct me if I'm wrong, Don, this year have been more on the sporting directors than they have the manager, right? By and large.
I think that there's been a mixture. A lot of people still want Maresca out, but
but there's been a focus on it. I'm trying to point out, and I just look at it. I get where you're coming from, but Arteta should never have been given that power in the first place. I agree with you that his decisions on transfers have been bad. Do you think it's plausible for anyone who's backing Arteta that if he has that power reduced and he's bought players by someone like Berta, could his team be better and then get over the line, in your opinion? Or should he not be given? Or should he not be given the chance?
Listen, maybe they could, but I think it's a chance to start a new slate. He obviously he was happy with that power and that control, right, as a manager, to have that say over players. Now you strip power and control away from him and basically demote his position. Now from being a manager who gets to choose the players and go and sign that to just, you're just going to coach the players. And that's why I think go and get someone that is used to working in that model as a head coach who can coach teams and work with directors of football, because I just think it's a weird dynamic of like, you've been the guy having the say over the players and in charge. Now we're stripping that away from you. This guy's going to do it. I think it's just a weird dynamic. I think
the way that he is as well. The way that he is, I don't think he'll take that. You know what I mean? Like you had Anita that was on AFTV back in the day asking him, questions about the other day and that, and then he was like, "Oh yeah, these lot told me on the bench and that." And she even asked him like, "Who said that?" You know what I mean? And for me, he just seems very obnoxious. Yeah, he seems very obnoxious. It seems very
arrogant, man. Unearned arrogance, Don.
Arrogant, all of that. You know what I'm saying? So it's like I don't see a world where Arteta's completely stripped off all control. I know they've brought in Berta, but listen, he's still gonna have his say on certain things, innit? You know what I mean? I just don't see it. I just don't see Arteta not having that control back.
And I know it's different levels and things like that. Like obviously, we tried to do that and keep the manager, like Moyes was a traditional manager who had his server players. We brought in a director of football, and there was a clash because Moyes couldn't accept that his role had been diminished and reduced to just coaching the players and not picking the players. And that created issues behind the scenes because it was hard to accept that. And that's, I think, where they could fall foul this time. And I think you get Berta in and you really want him to have this stamp on the team, let him pick the coach. Let him come in and say, this is the guy.
Well, I think in terms of what we're reading as football fans at the moment is the shortlist and the candidates are being kind of handpicked and worked on by Berta. So there's the review on that. Now, you both seem to talk like you want him to go, and you're entitled to have that opinion.
I don't want him to go. I want him to stay.
Not wanting to go, but feel that he should go. Who do you think? Who's the candidate out there? What's the solution for Arsenal? If Arsenal fans, okay, Lawless, I agree with you. Who do you think is that coach that takes this? Because by the sounds of it, it's a very good team, and it's just being mismanaged by an arrogant manager. Who's the guy that gets them over the line, in your opinion? Who's the manager you think's attainable that can make this Arsenal team better, bro?
Listen, off the top of my head, not knowing what the plan is, what the project list, I would go back to Man United, right? Your thought process was, I'm not so much concerned about the name, as long as we sit there and we decide this is our identity, this is how we want to play, and I'm going to pick someone that fits that and fits the players that we have.
No, but who do you suggest, Lawrence?
So off the top of my head, because I'm not being paid what Bert.
No, but that's not what I'm saying. Like, you're a football guy. I've heard people say Nagelsmann as an example.
But I can pick it. I could go, oh, Ancelotti, and you go, oh, Ancelotti, he's old.
No, that's fine. I'm not trying to catch you out. I actually want to know who you think. You could say, I don't know, you could say Areola, you could say Eddie Howe, you could say anyone, bro.
I think they go, obviously, Areola, Eddie Howe are more experienced than Arteta. However, I feel like maybe if you're going to go from Arteta, you want to go to maybe someone that's coached at a bigger club. It's going to be harder to get. You know what I mean? It's like, say if you want to get an Enrique, he's at PSG. It's going to be hard to get these ones that are already out there. But like people said, it comes down to profiles. They got Arsene Wenger from Japan, really and truly. So if you've got the resources behind you,
I agree with you that there are managers out there that are in our own eyes. So, for instance, I think we would all agree Simeone's a better manager. So we all agree on that. And of course, there's a high percentage chance, not high percentage, but there is a percentage chance that there's a manager that we're not all familiar with who is also better, but just hasn't been unearthed yet. But I think when you're having a grown-up conversation, if you're going to say you think the club should move on from someone, surely you've thought about who would come in and replace him.
I think this is ridiculous because when we have this conversation about Man United and you say, I want him sacked, and I say, well, who do you want? And people say, well, it's not, like Staffy's even said it, it's not my job. It's not my job to say who. I just want him
here's
sacked.
The difference. So here's the difference.
It's not a difference. It's the same thing. So if I ask you want Ten Hag out, and I say, okay, who do you want instead? Oh, why should I say who I want? I can want him out, and it's not my job to replace him. It's the same thing. Like, I can throw names at you. Yeah, Eddie Howe. He's got his first trophy. Maybe
but what I want is I'll go to you next, Staffy. Sorry, and that's fine. But I would like to know who you think could do a better job that's attainable. If you think Eddie Howe's the guy, say it. No one's gonna. Like, I might disagree with you, but you're not going to get shot down. It's just
what I come out with.
Complete your argument. Is what
As
I'm asking.
Boy said, he who dares wins. Right. I had this same feeling about England. Southgate done a very good job. He got this squad to a point. Didn't get him over the line.
Agreed.
We had to give someone else a chance with this crop of players, to give someone else an opportunity to see what they would do. It's the same with Arsenal. Like, this crop of players now, there's a lot of talent in there. And we've had the same guy manage them all these years, done very well, got them to a point, not got them over the line. So there is, of course, there's an element of risk. You can't pick a name that you can sit there and say, yeah, he's going to come in and do. You can fucking get paid. You can do any manager you like. It's a gamble. Changing manager is a gamble. You have to have the bollocks to make that gamble, right? So it may not pay off. You may get an Eddie Howe. People may go,
and I understand that. David here says, fans are not supposed to research every manager in Europe. We don't have every data and stats or interview them. But that also, for me, is fair. But that also means you shouldn't be criticizing your team, because you don't know what's going on behind the scenes. You don't have all the data. You don't know who's injured. You don't know what's going on in people's personal lives. You don't know what deals are going on that a manager's important with. You don't know how influential someone is or isn't. You only know what you're being told in the media or what you grasp. The issue is with this argument is that you have to then apply that logic both ways, which means you should be less critical with your frustrations and with the things you don't like, because you don't have all the data and you don't have all the stats, and you don't get to interview or speak to anybody behind the scenes. But that doesn't stop you from having an opinion, which you're entitled to. You're entitled to say Arteta's not good enough. David, I'm on record of saying I think that they should be, at the very least, his neck should be on the line, Arteta, right now. He should be at a point where he knows he has to win or he's gone. I completely agree. The point is you have to be able to make suggestions if you're completing your argument. I can't just go, we need a better striker. Who? Anyone. That is how children speak. That is what my daughter will do.
Yeah, but
right?
I think that's disingenuous.
No, it's not disingenuous.
Lawless, what I'm trying to grasp here, are you basically trying to say right now that Arsenal need a little bit of a change in regards to their style of play? Because, you know, when you watch them, they're very stale, bro. You know, when I'm watching Arsenal games, I have to prepare myself, people. Yeah, I have to prepare myself and say, oh, I'm about to watch some stale football. They might win the game and that, but what I'm watching is not good. You know what I mean? Like, a lot of the time, it's this meaty, bruv.
Yeah, no, I agree. And I think if anyone would have said when they had Unai Emery and they said, I want Unai Emery out, and they go, who do you want? Arteta. Everyone would have went and laughed at you. Like, what? You want a guy that's never managed?
But this is the thing that people did, and they had their opinions on him, and it's fair. And but David come back and says when Brendan Rodgers was sacked from Liverpool, not everyone wanted Klopp, and that's fair. You don't have to want the replacement, but this isn't about what the club will or won't do. Because the irony is, again, if we use that logic, you shouldn't be asking for the manager to be sacked because it's unlikely Arsenal are going to sack him. So therefore,
they should be more informed than average fans.
No. That's beside the point. Lawless. The thing here, the guy's saying fans don't have to give suggestions because not everyone will like the suggestions, or we're not the club, we're not as informed. But you're also not informed, and you're asking for someone to be sacked. You can't have one without the other in the space we're in, which is we're presenting ideas, we're having debates, and we're having arguments. It's a half of an argument at the very least to go, I want player X out. Who do you want to come in and replace him? I don't really care. Anybody. It's half an argument. You can't complete an argument that way. We are what we essentially do as fans when we review games, we speak about what we like and what we didn't, what we want to improve, and how we think it's going to happen. I don't think we can start leaving out half of those things. Otherwise, it's just rambles. You have to be able to give. And just because half the Liverpool fans didn't want Klopp doesn't mean that a Liverpool fan can't suggest it. It's fans give an opinion. It's crazy to say fans shouldn't be giving an opinion. Of course,
you can give an opinion. You can give an opinion, but just because your opinion may be, like I said, if I said Eddie Howe and you go, well, Eddie Howe's not as good as Arteta, so they've got to keep Arteta. It doesn't matter who I think they should replace him with. They're not going to pick anyone.
No, it does matter.
Can I finally speak?
I'm literally going to you next time. I've got one more thing to say. Of course it matters, Lawless. It matters massively who you want. Because they're not
going to pick based on me.
It's not to do with that. But equally, but again, this is where your argument's flawed. One, the reason why it matters is because I want to know what you think, and the thousands of people tuning in want to know what you think.
I understand that, Terry.
Second point, they're not going to sack him because you ask him to either, yet you're suggesting that he should. So logically, it's flawed.
No, but listen, when Arsenal fans did the Wenger out protest, right? Wenger out banners and all that, and put the pressure on, they didn't go Wenger out, Emery in. We want Emery, so they sack managers based off fan pressure.
Yeah, and that's fine.
Hire managers based off fan suggestions. But again,
let's bring it back to what I want. I want your opinion. I understand. I understand that Bert is not going to bring you into a room and go, bruv, I want your opinion. So when people say it doesn't matter, it does. We're here to talk. I want your opinion on it, bro.
I get that too, but what I'm saying is, because I may not come up with the perfect alternative, doesn't mean that they necessarily should keep him. Because what I'm saying is,
what Terry's basically saying is, do your research.
Do your research. I don't. Staffy. Sorry, you've been waiting very patiently. Sorry, over to you, bro.
No, so here's the issue, Lawless. You've made so many comparisons that I don't know how no one challenged you for. First of all, when you talk about Ten Hag, it's a completely different situation. Ten Hag was massively failing massively failing. We are talking about Arteta like right now. He's got Arsenal outside the top 4. He's not winning trophies. They're sitting bottom half of the table. I get it. They're not winning trophies, which is why we're having this discussion. But I'm not gonna lie. If you want to sack a manager,
you wouldn't suggest the manager. That's what we're talking about. You wouldn't suggest the manager because it weren't your job. Don't act like I'm comparing him to Ten Hag.
No, because you compared situations when I said that there is a difference between a manager who's sinking your team and sinking your club every day, and there's a difference between sacking a manager because you are ambitious and you want to get over that. Oh, I'm just finishing second every year. Oh, I just got knocked out of the semifinal. Let's not listen, bro. We can banter Arsenal all the way. I like to banter Arsenal fans.
I want to get Terry's opinion on what you said.
1 second, Lawless. Let me finish.
I know. I'm just saying.
Let's not pretend that this team didn't get to a semifinal of a Champions League and is finishing second in the league. If I am sacking a manager because of these credentials, that means I'm still sacking a very good manager. There is no mistake in I have no doubt if Arteta would to leave Arsenal on mutual agreement or get sacked or whatever, he would be picked up in the next season or whatever by a very, very good club. There will be very ambitious clubs that will see what he did and say, you know what, we're going to take a gamble on him because we've seen how far he can get with a team and with a club, and maybe just with us, we're able to win us a league. If Company can get relegated and get the Bayern job, I promise you, Arteta could get a similar job. So he's not in a situation where he's getting sacked because he's a massive failure. He's getting sacked because he can't take this team over the line. Now, I bring this to the point that you presented is, it's not up to me to pick a manager. No one's asking you to pick a manager. However, when you're sacking a manager who's been second place 3 years in a row, and in a lot of arguments, he is top 3 managers in the league, even though he didn't win yet. But when you're finishing second every year and you just reach a semifinal in the Champions League, you're sacking a very good manager. You have to be a lot more cautious when you sack a manager at that level than when you sack a Pochettino or you sack a Ten Hag or you sack someone who's massively failing. There's very little room for improvement when you're already second in the league and you're in a semifinal of a Champions League. So your next selection has to be very, very careful. I'm not saying, by the way, I don't care if people want to sack Arteta or they want to keep him. I've already made a stance that this summer, I'm not telling anyone what to do because every time I say Arteta out, they say I'm just appeasing for the Arteta inners. How much is Terry paying you to say this? And when I say Arteta, when I say the opposite, the other group flip on me. I'm not doing none of that no more. Arteta has done enough for me to say he's a good manager. And I've also reached over with him like, you know what? For ambitious people who want something new, like you said, it's time for something new and something fresh. And maybe the next person can take him over the line. I hear that logic. Let's not forget, though, that this manager finished second with a team that has no striker this season for like the majority of the season. He got a DM to play up top.
He hasn't finished second yet, Staffy.
He was firing. The guy had 4 GNA, by the way, against Real Madrid. He promoted an 18-year-old to play in left back. He had Gabriel, the best defender, in my opinion, one of the top 2 center backs this season in the league. He's been out over the last few games. He dealt with a lot of situations well. We expect managers to adapt well when they don't have a good squad. One of the biggest criticisms we give managers is that, but you can't always have the best squad available to you and have all your players for you to perform well. He has done well for what he has. He's failed to get over the line, and I understand that criticism, but let's not act like Arteta's a joke, man. He's really not.
I never said he's a joke. This is where you're gaslighting me because I never said
it. Let me back Lawless here a bit, because what you're saying, Staffy, right? No one's disagreeing that Arteta's done a good job at Arsenal.
I literally said it. I said he's done.
The debate here, right, is there time for change, right? There's a very strong argument. There's a very strong argument, right, that there is a perfect time for change right now. Lawless, he might not have done his research on what manager he wants to come in, but he might be visualizing this team completely different to Arteta. Like, would you say that Arsenal need to be a little bit more attacking Lawless?
I agree. I agree. One of the criticisms I gave him this season is that I think their style of football regressed. Me and you were on Terry's neck earlier in the season when we were telling him the style of football that they're playing is actually not as good over the last 2 seasons. And he was if you remember, he was blaming red cards, he was blaming injuries. Odegaard was out the first 2 in a month, and we kept telling me and you specifically, kept telling him, no, we see the way that they're playing football, the style. Eventually, when you look now that the season is concluding, they relied more on physicality, they relied more on set pieces and long free throws over the last 2 games, and these are things that Arteta deserves criticism for. However, he still got second in the league after everything that we said. He still got second in the league.
He hasn't got second in the league. Stop saying that, Staffy.
He's second. Am I lying?
He's
second.
not finished. The season's not finished, Staffy. Stop saying that.
And it's not even
second right now. Am I making up a position?
Yeah, has he? You keep saying he's finished second. He hasn't finished second.
The bigger picture here. The bigger picture.